I wanted to give you guys a little bit of my history, and I think that will be a good introduction to today's meal. I am the eldest of 3 girls. I have Amanda, who is 3 years younger than me, Chelsea, that is 10 years younger than me. We grew up, well, I should say that I grew up on a cattle farm in southwest Missouri, in the Mount Vernon area. And that farm is where I learned how to cook the way that I cook. Well, the beginnings of cooking the way that I cook. I come from a very large family, and all of the women and some men in our family cook very well. I learned about snapping green beans and canning and making biscuits and all of those things on that farm. And growing up with my mother, which I'm very fortunate that I got so many years with, my mother taught me how to cook from scratch. Now, unfortunately, my mother passed away over my Christmas break, my senior year of high school. I was 17 years old, and neither of my sisters really got to learn the things that I got to learn about homemaking. And so I'm sort of tasked with teaching them. Both of them do ask me a lot of questions, which is fine. And I have said that if they wanted to learn how to make something, that all they had to do was ask. Now, they also live a long ways away from me. So Chelsea, who's 10 years younger than me, she lives about 5 hours away from me now. She lives down in the area that I grew up in. Amanda lives in the Kansas City area, so she is about 2.5 hours or so, 3 hours from me. And so I can't be there right with them to show them how to make things. So I get a lot of phone calls, and I said, if you want to learn how to make something, just let me know, and I can make one of these videos and you can watch it, and hopefully that will help out a little bit more. So today, Chelsea, who is pregnant with baby number 3, I was discussing with her how her spouse is a good old country boy, and we all know that good old country boys like to eat good food. And one of the things that Mom taught me was the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And I said, now all we got to do is teach you how to cook. They didn't get the experience of learning how to cook from me the first decade of my adult life, because I left straight out of high school and joined the military, and I was gone for quite a while. So at this point in my life, with both of my sisters learning how to cook and having the desire to take care of their family, they can watch these videos and learn how to make things. So Chelsea today asked me if I could teach her how to make cabbage rolls. And so that is the inspiration for today's video. I'm going to go ahead and get that process started. Also, I'm going to talk in this video. I will try to explain some of the things that I'm doing, and I'm learning how to do that and how to be more efficient at that. So just bear with me on that, and I love everyone's suggestions and everyone's support. Thank you so much. And if you haven't already, if you're new to my channel, I'm new to my channel. Please like and subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know if you have any suggestions or if you have any video ideas that you would like to see, and I will do my best to incorporate those into the lineup. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you. Okay, I have got a cabbage here, and I just peeled off the outer layers of it because those layers are usually dirty, and then I just took the core out, and you know, I just cut a little box around it, and then I go around it at an angle. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my pot, and the reason why I'm gonna put it in here first before I get my water boiling is I need to know how much water I need. And so having the cabbage in the pot whenever I fill the pot is going to displace the water and show me how much water I need in my pot. As you can see, it's not all the way full covering, but it floats. I just need enough in there to make sure it gets the better part of the cabbage whenever it's boiling. So I'm going to go ahead and take the cabbage out. Okay, so I'm going to get the cabbage water over here going without the cabbage in it, and once it's boiling, then we'll bring the cabbage back over. This does not have any salt in it, it's just water. Okay. While I'm getting my water boiling, I'm going to go ahead and crush up my crackers, because essentially what's going to be inside of the cabbage rolls is my meatloaf mixture. I'm not going to use rice, and I actually do not use tomato sauce. We're going to have a brown gravy with beef broth. That's going to be the liquid that we're going to cook the cabbage rolls in. So the combination of the brown gravy with the meatloaf guts to the cabbage rolls, the way that I cook them, and then the side dish, which is mashed potatoes, put the gravy on it, comes together real nice. So I've got here in a gallon bag, I've just got regular old saltine crackers. Take my rolling pin and get those smashed up. I have found that the best crackers are the cheap crackers. They're the crispiest and they're the tastiest, and so I always get the cheapest box of crackers that I can, whether it's, you know, Best Choice or Always Save or whatever the cheap kind is. What I have in here is 2 pounds of ground beef, and this is grass-fed beef. It's just what we have. We bought a half a beef from our neighbor. It's local. I can't really tell you what the fat content is in it, but I can tell you it's probably low because it's grass-fed beef. So what I'm going to do is, like I said before, this is basically my meatloaf mixture. So whenever I get done doing this, if I wanted meatloaf, I literally would take this, and I would not do like a typical meatloaf in a pan. You know, a lot of people have those pans with the holes in the bottom where the grease drains. That is not how I do meatloaf. I get my iron skillet, and I put a layer of slices of bread, like white bread, wheat bread, whatever it is that you use. I use white bread. So you take layers of bread. The best is thick slice homemade bread or Texas toast. And you put a layer of bread on the bottom, and then you form your meatloaf, and you put that right on top of the bread, and you bake it that way in the oven. And I'll show you guys that later in a video in the future, how I do that. But you bake it on the bread, so the bread soaks up all of the grease, and it gets like crispy and amazing on the bottom. And whenever you cut your slices of meatloaf, it has a layer of crispy seasoned bread on the bottom. It's amazing. It was like my dad's favorite thing whenever I was growing up. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I make my meatloaf. And I have some very basic ingredients, and I don't know of anybody else that does their meatloaf this way. If you decide to try it, you're gonna have your socks blown off. I'm just telling you. Just telling you. I know how to eat. Okay, so as far as ingredients go, I've got ketchup. I've got my favorite ketchup here. It's the only ketchup I use. A1 steak sauce. I've got Hellmann's mayonnaise and French's yellow mustard. Okay, so I'm just going to take the ketchup and squirt that all over the top. And if I had to guesstimate, I'd say that's probably a third of a cup-ish. Take my mustard. And I'm just gonna drizzle that over the top. A1 sauce. Just a little drizzle of that around the top. Like that. So the mustard, that was probably about 2 teaspoons of mustard and probably about 2 tablespoons of A1 sauce. And then the mayonnaise. Now a lot of people use eggs as a binder in their meatloaf, and I use mayonnaise. So you just take a couple dollops like that, about the same amount as you would use to make the quantity of an egg, like that. So that's probably about 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. Then I'll take my package of crushed saltines, and those go in the mix like that. I am going to do, now a lot of this, like the ketchup and the mayonnaise, the A1 sauce, it all has salt in it, so you really don't need a whole lot of salt. I've got a half teaspoon, and the crackers have salt, black pepper, so a half teaspoon of that. Onion powder, granulated onion, do a half teaspoon of that. And granulated garlic, do a half teaspoon of that. Now for meatloaf, it'd be really good if there was some green bell peppers in that. If you were doing onion, I would suggest softening your onion in a skillet. Like if you're doing real onion, soften your onion in a skillet before you put it in here. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed up all together. Okay, I'm going to put this in the fridge for a little bit so that the flavors can kind of come together. Okay, I have got my potatoes cut up over here, just enough water to cover the potatoes. I'm going to go ahead and put some salt in here, just kind of a little zhuzh of salt. I'm just going to go ahead and take this and just drop it down in there, move it around in there. I should be able to start getting the hot water in this outer layer, and then the cabbage leaves will just start to loosen up, and they'll start to, this is not done yet, but they'll start to soften up. So just until they're soft enough to roll. I'm gonna go ahead and lay those out on a plate, the ones that are already soft. And they're staying in here about a minute or so off the head. I have got my meat mixture over here and my cabbage leaves that are cool enough to handle. And I am just going to take enough. This is about, I would say probably about 2 tablespoons worth. and I'm just gonna elongate it, kind of roll it in my hands to make it easier to deal with in the cabbage leaf. You have like where it's raised right here, this big rib in the middle. You can take off a little bit of that so that it lays flat. You're going to put this on and basically roll it up like a little burrito. So I just put it on there, fold my sides over, and then roll it up like that. And then you're going to put it seam side down. Roll into a ball, make it into a little log, like a little mini meatloaf. Sides over, roll up, seam side down. I'm just gonna get some butter into my pan, and in order to raise the temperature that I'm able to cook with the butter, I'm going to use a little bit of my bacon grease as well, and get that in the skillet. Keep that one like that. Okay. I've got the heat turned off on my potatoes, but the burner's still warm. And I put them back in the pot after I drained them. I've got my half a stick of butter. It's gonna melt. It's gonna melt down into those potatoes. And I'm just gonna smash them up roughly. I think I might go ahead and put this other half a stick of butter in here. I think that's what I'm going to do. So in total I'm using a whole stick of butter in these potatoes. Let me check on the cabbage rolls. Oh yeah. They're browning up nicely. So that's what you want them to look like. Now, what I like to do is I like to get my consistency right on the potatoes before I season with salt and pepper, just so that I do not over season the potatoes. I've done that before and can't take it back. So I've got my butter, like I said, in here. I'm just going to splash down probably a quarter of a cup for right now. Get started with the mixing. Add in another quarter of a cup. The ones that are in the middle, because they've browned up pretty nice. And then I'll just kind of turn these around and get them done evenly. Go ahead and put in some more. See, the salt on these is just right. If I would have added any more salt, it would have been too much. So all I need is pepper. And I do fresh cracked. Okay, finishing up, taking the last of the cabbage rolls out of the skillet. Some bacon grease. Basically, it's going to be like how we start any gravy. Mix the flour with the grease. Brown the flour up for about a minute or so to get rid of that floury taste. And I have got a quart of beef broth. I'm going to slowly add that while I keep it moving. Finish adding the rest of this in. You're going to cook this for about 5 minutes or so until it just starts to thicken up. And at that point you want to taste it for seasoning. So I'm going to get this cooked up. The gravy has been cooking for about 5 minutes now. And it's still a thin consistency. I'm just going to give it a taste. I'm just going to add a touch of salt and then a touch of pepper. It really doesn't need a whole lot. If you season your broth whenever you make it in the pot, it doesn't really need a whole lot. I'm going to add the cabbage rolls back into the pot. I'm going to turn my heat down to about medium-low. Alright, I'm taking this liquid, some of the liquid off because I had quite a bit. And then I'll just keep it here next to the stove in case I need to add some back in the cooking process. I'll check on it. That looks good. I just put a pan on top because I don't have a lid for this skillet. And I am going to let this cook on medium-low for about 15 minutes. I'll pull this off and check it and see if I need to add this liquid back in. And then I will put this back on and let it go for another 15 minutes, about a total of 30 minutes. Then I'll take one of the rolls out and check it for doneness. Okay, so they've cooked an additional 15 minutes. Let's see where we're at. Okay. Okay, so this is delicious, and I highly encourage anyone that has a traditional cabbage roll recipe with the rice in it and also the tomato based sauce. I encourage you to give this a try. It really is good. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next time.